Welcome, my friends and enemies. Glad you are here. This is a very interesting video because of the source is legit, as opposed to every other source that wasn't, technically speaking, up until like a week or two ago, maybe even 3 weeks ago, where it was just all theories. But we now have the end of an era, or as I like to call it, the obvious conclusion to a horrific existence for a company. Like, this is the obvious natural outcome for virtually any result you think would happen due to mismanagement. Put it that way. So, what am I talking about? Well, Star Wars. So, as per actual Lucasfilm leaders and everything on StarWars.com, the original official, whatever you want to call it, Kathleen Kennedy is stepping down to a producer role from the head of the studio, essentially. Now, this is a very strange thing because this has been rumored for like literally a decade. So it's kind of like, well, they called it a decade ago, just not accurate about the time in which it would actually take place. So what does this mean? Well, Kathleen Kennedy is stepping down from being the head to just a producer. Question is her production quality as a producer going to be good or still crap? I would assume still crap, because basically she's going to take the head the head studio head mindset to the producer role, and everything that she wanted to put into Lucasfilms as an entire entity is probably going to be something that she is going to do on a much smaller scale as a producer on things. But essentially, she's just not controlling the entire studio and is in fact just going to do it on a particular individual projects. Probably projects she actually cares about. Maybe she'll try to influence other projects that she thinks might interfere with her projects, or if she thinks that it'll affect the lore in a negative light the way she wants it to, maybe she'll interfere with them. I don't know. I don't know why this woman still has a job. I mean, obviously she has dirt on somebody, but like, it's not possible for people to be this dumb in the business world and continue on doing so while the upper executives just stand by and just watch money hemorrhage from your, well, everything really. I mean, your merchandise, your actual like film, whether it be TV or movie, just everything, stories, graphic novels, books, comics, everything is suffering under Star Wars brand. Why is it doing this? Incompetence is usually the number one thing, but also ideology is usually the second, if not the first. But incompetence goes along with the ideology. If you have poor ideology, you have incompetence by natural position. So here we have Kathleen Kennedy, who was it? Dave Filoni, and her name's Linwin Brennan. Who's this lady, I'm assuming. So Dave Filoni and Linwin Brennan are coming in to replace Kathleen Kennedy. I don't know why Dave Filoni is going to be there, but it was kind of assumed that he would be the choice, because who else are they going to pick? He's a sycophant for her. I have no idea who this lady is, but the fact that Dave is not allowed to do it by himself just speaks volumes to what they think of him, which I don't necessarily blame them. But if I don't know who she is, I don't know what the point is. But Lucasfilm and the Walt Disney Studios announced leadership transition. As Kathleen Kennedy steps down from Lucasfilm leadership to return to producing, Dave Filoni will lead the studio as president and chief creative officer, alongside Linwin Brennan as co-president. I don't know why you need a co-president Either you're good at your job or you're not. And if you're not good at your job, having another one there isn't going to make you better at your job. It's going to mean you're bad at your job, and also possibly the other person's bad at their job. So you have two people to be responsible for all the mistakes. All right, Lucasfilm announced today that after 14 years of leading the studio, President Kathleen Kennedy is stepping down from her role. Kennedy will return to full-time producing, including the studio's upcoming features, The Mandalorian, Grogu, and Star Wars Starfighter. Dave Filoni, who worked closely with the creator George Lucas to build the Lucasfilm animation department on Star Wars The Clone Wars and helped launch Star Wars live-action series alongside Jon Favreau on The Mandalorian, will take on a creative leadership of the company as president and chief creative officer, and Lin-Manuel Brennan will serve as co-president. Their close collaboration and more than 30 years of combined senior executive experience, that doesn't mean very much if you are been working like that. Okay. Obviously, you have Dave Filoni working with George Lucas. So obviously more than the 15, 16, 17 years or whatever it is now of Disney ownership of Star Wars. And then you add Lin-Manuel Brennan, if she was there at the same time Disney took over, put them together and you almost hit 30 years just there. So them saying, oh, this collaboration, like that's 30 years of good experience. Now, obviously Dave Filoni was there a little bit longer because he worked on the Clone Wars for a couple years before Disney stepped in. But doesn't mean he's good at his job. But it's just like saying that 30 years of combined senior executive experience, it sounds like a resume, like you're trying to convince somebody that they know what they're doing. I don't know if anybody's aware of this. I'm sure some of you are, some of you might not be, but the amount of time you spend doing something doesn't inherently mean you know what you're doing. These are two different things. Doing something like you could do something very stupid for a long time does not mean that you're like, aside from apparently either really good at it or people really don't care about what you're doing. Like, I'm really good at popping holes into things that are not supposed to have holes popped in them, and I've been doing it for 30 years. Well, that sounds like a flight risk. But it doesn't equate to what they think it means. They think that, oh, we'll just take these two people, slam them together in the same position, and say they know what they're doing. Well, Kathleen Kennedy allegedly knew what she was doing, but she really didn't. Like, she didn't have any credentials in any shape or form in that regard to take over a studio. And we saw her tenure, and it wasn't that good. But we'll carry Lucasfilm into its next story of storytelling with a strong foundation of creative vision. Well, creative vision doesn't mean it's good creative vision. And operational leadership also doesn't mean good operational leadership, guiding the studio forward. My love of storytelling, doubtful, was shaped by the films Kathleen Kennedy and George Lucas. I never dreamed I would be privileged to learn the craft of filmmaking from both of them. I mean, I agree. Learning from George Lucas would be an interesting experience, and probably very, very impactful on how you do things. It's a shame he didn't really take that away from George. Says Filoni. From Rey to Grogu, neither of those relevant. Kathy has overseen the greatest expansion in the Star Wars storytelling on screen that we have ever seen. Yeah, he's out of the loop on how much money they've made from Star Wars since they purchased it. I am incredibly grateful to Kathy, George, Bob Iger, and Alan Bergman for their trust and opportunity to lead Lucasfilm in this new role, doing a job I truly love. May the Force be with you. Well, it's better than him and his dog. Lucasfilm has played such a meaningful part in my life, said Brennan. Well, yeah, they pay you. It's a community of inspiring storytellers with a rebel spirit like no other. Well, just being a rebel does not mean a rebel from Star Wars against the Empire. It means potentially you don't do what you should do because you have a rebel spirit. Well, goodness. And I'm honored to join Dave Filoni in leading us forward. I have been so fortunate to learn from George Lucas, Kathy Kennedy, and Alan Bergman, and have unwavering faith in Dave's creative vision for the next chapter in this storied studio's legacy. That is a problem, because unwavering faith is never a good thing unless it's from an actual person with actual experience and quality behind their name. So this just means, at least now, they're replaceable because Dave Filoni and Brennan are not going to have, let's just say, the dirt to stay in position if anything goes wrong. Filoni joined Lucasfilm in 2005 and has played a pivotal role in shaping the creative direction of the Star Wars universe. Well, maybe some things. Working closely with George Lucas, Filoni was instrumental in establishing the company's animation studio and has since expanded the franchise into new and compelling territory. His storytelling contributions span acclaimed series such as Star Wars The Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, and The Mandalorian, earning multiple Emmy Awards and nominations. Filoni currently serves as showrunner for Ahsoka, now in production for its second season, and is teaming with Jon Favreau on the feature film The Mandalorian and Grogu, which debuts in theaters May 22nd, 2026. That's going to be an interesting one to see if it actually does any decent work, because I am pressing X to doubt. It'll still make money, but I don't think it'll make as much money as they think it will. Brennan has been with Lucasfilm since 1999. Never heard of her. That's always a good sign. Beginning her tenure at Industrial Light and Magic, where she rose through the ranks to become its leader in 2009. I don't know what that means. She was appointed general manager of Lucasfilm in 2015 and transformative technological shifts with clear strategic vision. This is literally a resume speech pattern. They're saying a lot of blah, 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 because it sounds intellectual, and it sounds like it's phenomenal. It's like, oh man, look at this. This is amazing. Don't you understand what you're reading right now? This is great. This is quality. And it's like, no, you're just using big words and smashing them together and trying to make it sound really like snazzy for it to come across as like a resume, to make it seem like she knows what she's doing. That's not how you're going to sell a person who's intelligent. Transformative technological shifts with a clear strategic vision and a commitment to innovation. And her industry leadership has been recognized with a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Visual Effects Society in honor of Commander of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire. I'm guessing she's a visual effects person. Which, if she's good at her job, good for her. I know pretty much nothing about her, but usually if you're rising to the top of Lucasfilms now, you're probably a terrible person. And you're probably not a good person for Star Wars. You're a good person for the agenda. That's my takeaway from Disney Star Wars. Kennedy's leadership legacy. Kennedy's run as Lucasfilm leadership began in 2012 when Disney acquired the company. When we acquired Lucasfilm more than a decade ago, we knew we were bringing into the Disney family not only one of the most beloved and enduring storytelling universes ever created, but also a team of extraordinary talent led by a visionary filmmaker, someone who had been handpicked by George Lucas himself, no less, said Bob Iger, CEO of the Walt Disney Company. That doesn't necessarily mean it was a good choice. He could have just passed it off because he didn't care, because he's selling the company. Or maybe she lied to him. That's also possible. We're deeply grateful for Kathleen Kennedy's leadership, her vision, and her stewardship over such an iconic studio and brand. Kathleen Kennedy has been a tremendous force in the industry for 50 years, and it's been our privilege to have her here at Disney, leading Lucasfilm for nearly 14 of them. At Disney Entertainment co-chairman Alan Bergman. She has steered Star Wars to incredible box office heights. That's a lie. And brought a new generation of fans into the fold. Fans of what is the question? We appreciate having her on board to produce our next couple of films, and the studio remains in extraordinarily capable hands with Dave Filoni, who's a brilliant storyteller, press X to doubt, and Lin-Win Brennan, an avid innovator and business leader. That doesn't mean anything, but okay. They are deeply passionate and experienced executives who continue to drive the studio and Star Wars forward in exciting new directions. When George asked me to take over Lucasfilm upon his retirement, I couldn't have imagined what lay ahead, said Kennedy. It has been a true privilege to spend more than a decade working alongside the extraordinary talent at Lucasfilm. Their creativity and dedication have been an inspiration, and I'm deeply proud of what we've accomplished together. I'm excited to continue developing films and television with both long-time collaborators and fresh voices who represent the future of storytelling. Since being named president of Lucasfilm, Kennedy has guided a new era of storytelling, spanning Star Wars and Indiana Jones, neither of those ending very well under their tenure. While championing bold creative directions and exciting new voices, she oversaw the record-shattering release of Star Wars The Force Awakens. Well, yeah, everyone was excited about Star Wars when Disney bought it because they're like, we're getting more Star Wars, and then they didn't get more Star Wars. The first in a new trilogy of billion-dollar Star Wars saga films, as well as Rogue One, a Star Wars story, which is arguably better than the sequel trilogy, which also grossed over $1 billion worldwide and led to the creation of the Emmy-winning Andor series. She also led Lucasfilm's foray into live-action Star Wars series, including 3 seasons of The Mandalorian, as well as Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ahsoka, and others, alongside popular animated shows such as Star Wars The Bad Batch and Star Wars Visions. I've never even heard of Star Wars Visions. That's how popular it is. Kennedy is currently producing the feature films The Mandalorian and Grogu, and director Sean Levy's Star Wars Starfighter, set for theatrical release in 2026 and 2027, respectively. Now, I would like to point out, even if the sequel trilogy each made $1 billion, they still have not made back the money that they have actually paid for the rights of Star Wars from George Lucas. So, like, they paid him, I think, $40 billion. And if anything, they're in the opposite direction. They're in the red. They're not in the black, right? Like, they're not even making equal. Because let's say each of the sequels, each one of them made $3 billion in profit. Let's say $3 billion in profit each. That's $9 billion. If you look at the other Star Wars stuff, if it barely meets what it actually would have to make in order to actually make anything profit-wise, or let's just say it just hits even. It just hits even for everything else. They still didn't make money. They've still technically lost $31 billion off of this so far. But in all reality, most of those, if not all of those, have lost money, with the exception of a couple of the sequels, because they're actual, like, bona fide films. They're not just TV shows. And people went to go see them, but they didn't, like, people who saw them were like, wow, that was great, that was amazing. And then after a while, they're like, wait a minute, was that as good as I thought it was? They might go see it 2-3 times and then realize that wasn't as good as I thought it was. And the characters, the way everything was done, subpar. Much subpar work for what you'd expect. It didn't feel like a George Lucas Star Wars story. Mostly because George Lucas didn't have anything to do with it, but, like, it was less than. We'll put it that way. As Kennedy transitions back to producing, broadening her portfolio. Why did she need to broaden her portfolio? She was the head of a studio. The only way she could go up was to literally go to Disney or any other much bigger company. She went down. Okay. With new collaborations across genres and platforms, she builds on a remarkable 50-year career as one of the most accomplished producers in film history. Yeah, accomplished just means you did stuff. It doesn't mean you did stuff well, but okay. In film history, and as co-founder of Amblin Entertainment with Steven Spielberg and Frank Marshall, she helped bring to life iconic films, including E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Jurassic Park, Back to the Future, Schindler's List, Sixth Sense, and Lincoln. Yeah, but she was a part of that. She did not control those. That's a big difference. Like, her role on all of those could have been, like, literally 0.000000001%. It does not mean her portfolio is, like, the bestest ever. But also it means that she has, even if let's say it was 20% of that, like, all the people participating, she was 20% of that, which is still pretty high comparing the people she's working with. 20% of that would put her under the control of people with greater creative minds than her. And they're going to overrule any stupid concept she comes up with. But also back then, they didn't have so many stupid ideas to run by. To, like, oh, we need to make this more feminist, or we need to make this more this. No, they just said, we want a good story, and there wasn't much to, like, adjust with it, right? So, I don't know what the point of this is, really. I just don't. her 70 plus films have earned 25 Academy Awards. Yeah, but it's not her. She's not the sole person who did this. This is a team effort. They're like leaving out the entire squad to just butter her up. Have earned 25 Academy Awards among more than 120 nominations, along with billions at the global box office. She was honored with the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, coveted Irving G. Thalberg, whatever it is, Memorial Award in 2018, and the Producers Guild of America's Milestone Award in 2022. So, yeah. An end of an era, or a nightmare, depending on how you look at it, of the Star Wars universe that we all regret did not do better. Not in money, but in quality. I noticed they did not announce the Acolyte in there. I also noticed they didn't, push all these shows that flopped necessarily really hard, like say Solo or certain particular seasons of The Mandalorian, Boba Fett, Book of Boba Fett, I should say. It was a very disappointing era. And, I mean, guys, look, I like Star Wars. I like Star Wars. And, I mean, Star Wars. Star Wars. Star Wars. I like Star Wars. It's not I don't like Star Wars and I'm just me about this. I just legitimately think we could have gotten better quality. We could have gotten a much more continuous universe. We had the entire EU. They had the EU available and chucked it in the trash to do whatever they wanted to do instead of doing the actual content. If they had opened the EU up and actually done it justice, they'd be rolling in hundreds of billions of dollars. And I'm not even joking. I'm talking like they would have paid back George Lucas in complete totality. They would have had the largest toy booming business currently in the industry, of the toy industry. And they would have just absolutely destroyed any limits that they could have gotten. They've just been like, no, whatever, just explode through it. They would have exploded like the freaking Death Star, in a good way, though. Not in a bad way. And they would have just done really, really good. We would have had so many good video games. We would have had more books. We would have had more just general merchandise, because the general merchandise now is literally just The Mandalorian and Grogu. That's it. You don't see nobody walking around with sequel trilogy crap. You don't see nobody walking around with nothing. You see Mandalorian and Grogu. And even that's dried up. They weren't ready for that. So they didn't think it was going to do as good as it did. And it did better than they thought it was going to. And it was honestly not that bad initially. But then as you think about it, you're like, what are we doing? You had the option of a bounty hunter doing bounty hunter stuff and being like a dark, nitty-gritty, action-packed Star Wars galaxy exploration stuff, and that's not what we got, which is disappointing, because that's what I wanted. Like, I watched Mandalorian because I was like, ooh, bounty hunters, and then Grogu showed up, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna be one episode, not a big deal. Maybe 2 or 3, maybe make like a mini series inside of the series, and we'll just move on from this, and everything will be better. Everything will be okay. And then we'll just go back to shooting everything. And that's not what happened. And now we're getting a movie. And I don't know why. Because it could literally have just been an episode or 3. This is the mini series put in a movie. So, I don't think Dave Filoni is going to make this magically better, and I don't think Brennan's going to help make it better. Maybe Brennan's good in the visual effects department. I don't know how I feel. I mean, maybe some of the visual effects have been okay in Star Wars. I'm not going to say, like, all Star Wars stuff, like every ounce of it has been just absolute nonsense. The story has been absolute nonsense. The characters have been absolute nonsense. The plot and everything, how it's contrived, the writing quality, that's been trash. But I won't say all the entirety of the cinematic aspect has been bad. Like, they've had some good sound quality, they've had some good visual effects, they've had some good shots. It's not all bad, but the bad definitely outweighs the good by far. Because it doesn't matter how good something looks if the story's trash, it makes the entire thing trash. Shocking. So, I guess we'll have to wait and see. And maybe you guys have your own thoughts about this. Which, if so, leave them down in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on where you think Star Wars is going. What do you think of the Kathleen Kennedy era? What do you think of the forthcoming Dave Filoni and Brennan co-presidency, creative chief officers, whatever? And where they think they're going to go with that? Are they going to continue what Kathleen Kennedy wanted to go with? Are they going to do their own thing? Do we know? Is there going to be any infighting? I have no idea. I would assume no, because I think they're all ideologically aligned. But what do you think is going to happen? I just can't find myself to care. At least not about that. I'll go back to the old Star Wars, the good Star Wars. But I can't really find it in my heart to care about Star Wars that Disney makes. I mean, I love the original trilogy. I even enjoy the prequel trilogy. I don't know if I necessarily love it, but I do enjoy it. Maybe I just need to watch it more. I've only watched it a handful of times compared to the original trilogy. I might be bracing myself to watch it with my kid because he's in a huge Star Wars spree. But I don't know. I find myself in a very weird spot because I don't care about anything Disney Star Wars, period. I don't think they treat iconic characters very well. I don't think we're getting the best handlers of this information. I don't think we're going to end up getting really anything good out of this. Either Disney sells Lucasfilm, which will never happen, or there's a hostile takeover of Disney and somebody wrenches it out of their hands and it's like, no, we're making better quality stuff and you're going to back the frick up. So, I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts? Leave a comment below. Share this if you think anybody else would be interested in this topic. What do you think their thoughts might be? Have them leave a comment as well. It's been a long time coming, and hopefully it gets better, but if it does get better, I don't deem it'll get much better than what it is now. It'll probably be pretty similar in all reality. But yeah, let me know what you guys' thoughts are. Appreciate you all. Like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Share. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for being here and giving me your time. Check the description down below if you'd like to follow in any of my Twitter /X or Discord, which is where I hang out the most. And Criticless, once they put video games in Criticless, I will be putting a ton of reviews on Criticless. So, thank you all very much. Check out the content creators also in the description box if you want to see if anybody else might be somebody worth following. And also check out the businesses below that. So, thanks everybody. And remember, my friends, walk in the light.